Welcome to what is officially my first book video. We're gonna do my favorite reads of 2025. Now, I know that it's the end of January, potentially by the time you're watching this, beginning of February. I feel like I've really gotten back into reading. I read 4 books so far in January. And if you know me in my personal life, I've been going through like a really bad reading slump maybe for the last 2 years. So the fact that I'm excited and picking up books again is great. That being said, I have 8 of my favorite books from 2025. My credentials are I've been reading since 2021, and I have recruited at least 3 to 4, maybe 5 friends to start reading, and they all love reading now. I also want to preface, I have the memory of a goldfish. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast. I don't remember what you said to me yesterday. I don't remember half of my life. And I've been putting off making a book video because I feel like, how can I recommend you books if I don't even remember like everything that happened? But I do remember the feelings that I had while reading these books, and I feel like that's more important. We're gonna go in chronological order of when I read these throughout the year. Starting off with the first book I read in 2025, which is one of my only 5 stars of the whole year, The Women by Kristin. Dare I say, my number 1 book of all time is Daisy Jones and the Six. Dare I say this is number 2. Perhaps this was just the first historical fiction that I read, and that's why it had such an effect on me. But I would say I'm quite fascinated when it comes to history, certain parts of history. And reading about the Vietnam War, I knew nothing about it going into it. Essentially, our main character, Frankie, comes from a wealthy family in Southern California. Her brother gets enlisted to the war during the Vietnam War, and she decides that she wants to go and be a nurse at one of the army bases. It basically tells her story as a nurse in the Vietnam War, the friends that she made, everything that she saw on a daily basis. And what I found really like impacted me was the fact that this book is pretty much based on the fact that like women were heroes in the Vietnam War, but it was never spoken about and nobody acknowledges that they were there. And she came home from serving in the war as a nurse, and no one acknowledged like anything that she was going through, and they were just like diminishing everything. And it's crazy to read parallels of what was happening in 1965, early 1970s to today. Obviously, it was a great plot. I kept wanting to pick it up. It was really entertaining and literally just had me sobbing and crying. And Kristin, I'm currently reading The Nightingale and I'm ready. I know it's gonna be 5 stars and I'm strapped in, I'm ready. I know that she's gonna be one of my favorite authors, so I 10 out of 10 recommend if you like historical fiction. And if you haven't read any historical fiction, I think this is a great place to start. Next up, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jiminez. I feel like I have mixed emotions about this book because I read Yours Truly by Abby Jiminez, and it may have been my least favorite book that I've ever read. Then I read Just for the Summer, and I really enjoyed that. I rated this 3.5 stars, and you're probably like, why is that in like your favorite books of the whole year? To me, that's still a good rating. Considering it's a romance and I wanted to keep picking it up and I was actually invested in the characters, and it was a little cheesy, don't get me wrong, there were moments where I was cringing. But I want to read you my Goodreads review because I wrote it right after I read it. I've been questioning whether I've just been falling out of love with reading, genuinely don't have time to read, or just haven't had a good book in months. I can't quite describe the excitement I felt not only finishing this book, but while reading it. To start, Xavier is the main male character, is the perfect MMC. He's good with animals, shows love through acts of service, and has such an amazing and heart-wrenching backstory that makes it hard not to love him. An issue I've been having with romance books lately is the dumb third act breakup or lack of conflict in their relationship. Often I'm kind of just sitting there thinking, you are all so dramatic, none of this needs to be happening, grow up. However, their conflict was so valid, it had me stressing and genuinely understanding the hardship they were facing, not to mention the familial difficulties they were both having in such different ways. I appreciated the subplots of family trauma and dementia because it made the characters seem so authentic and gave an added depth to the storyline other than just romance. One thing I've noticed about Abby Jiminez's writing is she tries to be current and trendy, but for me it falls flat. Overall, this is my top 5 romance books. Whoa, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if I still stand by that. Overall, this is in my top 5 romance books, perfect in almost every single way. Essentially, your classic romance book, except there's actually something like real keeping the characters apart. I hate when I read a romance book and they're like just miscommunicating and they're like, oh, he hasn't texted me, so he doesn't love me. He doesn't want to be with me. Like, so dumb. There's like actual real things going on in these people's lives. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys are going to get over this. Like, I don't even know as the reader how you guys are going to fix this and get back together during the third act breakup. So that was exciting, and that's why I rated this pretty high. Then we hit July, August, and September. I had a great couple of months of reading. I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author of all time. I have every single one of her books, or I've read every single one of her books. Every single book is above a 4 stars for me. I loved this book. Number 1, leave it to Taylor Jenkins Reid to make me care about space. Like, she did it with Carrie Soto. I don't give a crap about tennis. She made me care about tennis. I cared about space while reading this book. Isabella and I have a book club. Can you see? So this is why it's all tabbed on the side. Essentially, our main character, Joan, applies to become one of the first women in NASA, I think. Yes, she's one of the first women to go to space. No, she doesn't go to space. See, I don't remember the details. Something about her being the first woman in NASA. This is not good. What I remember from this is it's very character driven. The relationship between our 2 female main characters, Vanessa and Joan, beautiful, stunning, amazing. And her niece's name is Frances. I wanted to cry every single time I read a scene about her. On a quote about Frances, I don't know if you can see, but I just wrote tears, like literal tears. And just to give you a little insight into the romance, this is one of the quotes that I highlighted. In all of her time spent watching others, she hadn't picked up on this part of falling in love, that someone could look at you as if you were the center of everything. And even though you knew better, you'd allow yourself a moment to believe you were worthy of being revolved around too. I also want to say, obviously this is a relationship between 2 women set in the 80s, I believe. So it wasn't as openly accepted and talked about as it is today. And one of the quotes that I also highlighted, no matter how easy it was for Joan to lose herself in this new life, she was constantly aware of the cold, hard borders of it. The world would not care for her and Vanessa as they cared for each other. There's just so many good themes. Aside from the space, the friendships, the romance, the societal boundaries that they're like breaking. Not to mention the end is very suspenseful. Tears, crying, stressed the whole time. Now let me read you my Goodreads review. I rated this 4.25 stars. This book felt so inspiring. I felt so proud of Vanessa and Joan, not only for breaking the societal norm of their relationship, but for fulfilling their dreams of going to space and leaving such a legacy. Not to mention being some of the very few and first women chosen to go to space and doing that. TJR has this special way of making you feel so connected to side characters too. I loved this found family. Also making me interested in space. Never thought I'd say I enjoyed a book about NASA, but hey, here we are. It gave it this larger-than-life feeling when reading, putting your own life into perspective, how you can always dream bigger and then a little more. It was set in the early 80s, and it was so interesting to see how some topics are still controversial and relevant today. Overall, she was great. I did indeed cry actual tears. Specifically, Joan and Frances's relationship is one that I don't think I'll forget. I recently changed this book's rating to 5 stars. I initially gave it 4.75. That was just silly. Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. If you can tell by how many tabs are in here, obsessed with this book. It had everything you could possibly want in a book, in my opinion. I love getting controversial. I love talking about politics. I love talking about the state of the world, even as horrible as the state of the world actually is. But I am one to bring up topics that maybe make people uncomfortable. So, reading this book, London-based Georgia Carter, professional lie detector and body language savant, has long been estranged from her infuriating, close-minded, wealthy South Carolina family. Already intrigued. After falling out years ago, the chasm runs deep between the black sheep Georgia and her gay alcoholic brother and their parents and elder siblings. But when their father dies suddenly, Georgia returns to the States for the funeral, where she comes face to face with Sam Penny, her brother's AA sponsor. Amid the tensions, dramas, and revelations of the family reunion, Georgia and Sam are instantly drawn to each other. However, Georgia's brother also harbors feelings for Sam, and the last thing Georgia wants to do is hurt the only family she's ever really had. When their father's will reveals a surprising bequest to a mysterious stranger, Georgia's ability to read people becomes crucial in unraveling her father's hidden past. Family drama, generational trauma, controversial topics, romance. The romance was so good between Georgia and Sam. Georgia is one of my favorite female characters of all time. So witty, so funny, so clever. bold, confident, like, yes, I'm obsessed. Now let me read you my review. The first book I've read in a long time where I loved and related to the main character. Georgia was hilarious, unfiltered, and real. This book was so easy to pick up. The banter between all the characters kept it so engaging while still touching on very real and sensitive topics. This was no literary masterpiece, nor was it supposed to be. Sam Penny was perfection, no notes, a book boyfriend going down in history. There was quite a bit of political and controversial talk. I'm someone who loves to have deep and existential conversations, so I personally loved it. Georgia constantly questions her family's traditional beliefs and forces them to see outside of themselves. I definitely didn't see the plot twist coming, and I thought it was so pivotal in all the characters' relationships, not only with, I'm not going to spoil it, but with each other. This was so different from Magnolia Parks, much better in my opinion, and I would definitely recommend to anyone who wants a romance book that is not fluffy or predictable. I also have to say, I don't know if you can tell, but the blue tabs were things that I laughed out loud and thought were funny, and there's a lot of them, so this book was actually hilarious. I want to try and find some. This is a bit of a controversial one, but I love it. Oliver scowls, I just don't believe in marriage anymore. Now Georgia speaking. I guess that's good because a big chunk of America doesn't believe in marriage for you either. And then it goes, he kicks my seat. No, it's good. It saves me a lot of yelling and picketing. I said I don't believe in marriage as a form of validating commitment. Like if you're going to cheat on someone, you're going to cheat on them. A piece of metal on your finger won't stop you. If you're going to leave, you're going to leave. Rings and paper, they don't mean shit. Like, yes, period. Please read this book. It's literal perfection. I think this would be one of the very few books that I would reread. Then my next favorite romance of the year, Variation by Rebecca Yarros. I think we all know this name, Miss Fourth Wing, Miss Iron Flame, Miss Onyx Storm. I didn't know that she wrote romance books, and I loved this. Like, main character is a professional ballerina, and the male main character is a professional like rescue swimmer. It's small town romance, second chance. They met when they were younger. They meet again a couple years later in the same small town. She's famous. She has this big New York City life. He's this small town boy who's been where he's always been. He has dreams of moving elsewhere for his career, but you know, things have kept him at home, family commitments, yada yada. There's also just like secrets, plot twists, things from the past that get brought up. Like, honestly, I loved every second of this. I kept wanting to pick it up, and to this day, I was a competitive dancer my whole life, and now I'm taking ballet classes again as an adult. And I don't know why, every time I'm going to ballet, I'm literally thinking of Ali Russo. Like, she's kind of a character that's just like stayed in my mind for some reason. I loved her, and I loved Hudson. That's why this book is in this video. You should definitely read this. I also want to say, as someone who's read so many romance books, I'm learning that I need some depth. I need some outer plot happening outside of the romance. Like, it can't just be about these two characters texting and miscommunicating and whatever. I love as many subplots as I can get, as many themes as I can get. So that being said, this is not just like a random, you know, cowboy basic romance. Speaking of cowboy romance, I was debating and teeter-tottering putting this book in this video because it kind of goes against everything I've been saying for the last however minutes you've been watching this video. It is a cowboy romance. It's Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I read it on my Kindle, and I was kind of craving just a good plain old romance because I hadn't had one in a while. As much as it was a regular schmegular romance. See, I actually don't even remember what actually happens, but I remember, again, there being more depth to it. This is part of the Rosehill series. I read Wild Love first, and I did not enjoy that. That was like so surface level, a random romance between the main two characters. It was all spice, like it just like gave nothing. So I was hesitant going into the next one, but I'm so happy I did. It's single dad trope, which I loved, and the female main character is a pop star. It kind of gave me like Taylor Swift-esque is what I was like gathering from it. Yet her career is like on the decline. She basically goes to this small town because there's a great production company and she wants to record a new album. The owner of that production company was from the first book, Wild Love, and then his brother-in-law and best friend is the male main character in this book, and he's like a horse trainer, equestrian, I don't even know. But he's also a single dad. I'll read you some of the synopsis because I don't remember. As a chart-topping country singer with a recent streak of bad press, it's hard to find any peace. But I find it in Rosehill with a little boy and a little girl who steal my heart just as thoroughly as their dad. Weston Belmont. The man is a shameless flirt. He oozes confidence and masculinity in a way that's downright distracting. But no one has supported me like Wes does, and no one has ever made me feel as loved as he does either. So while my brain says settling down with a small town horse trainer is impossible, my heart says I'm right where I belong. Still, my life as a celebrity haunts me. It has the power to pull us apart. I can see in his eyes that he wants me to stay, and I want that too, but I know better than anyone that we don't always get what we want. I love that there's actually a real issue. Like, she's famous. She does not live here. Like, that's a hurdle that you guys have to get over, and you are a single dad. You can't leave your kids. I gave it 3.75 stars, and I said, wait, I really enjoyed this. The setting, oh, this was also set in Calgary, which I'm Canadian, so that was fun. The setting, the trope, the character development, and his kids. Honestly, Skylar, the main character, was giving me Taylor Swift vibes while writing Life of a Showgirl. Not to mention, in the audiobook, they actually turned her lyrics into songs. What a fun surprise. West is perfection and his family is the cutest. A fun, easy, romantic read. The second last book I read was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall, and I gave this 4 stars. Number one, this was a different genre than I'm used to. I feel like I've never really read something of this genre. It was set in the 1930s. In the English countryside. No, I totally just lied to you. It was set in the 1960s in the English countryside, yet it was a love triangle, and there was also like a murder trial going on at the same time. So there was a lot happening while romance was also involved. There was also a single dad trope and flashbacks from the main characters past to present. The farmer is dead. He is dead, and all anyone wants to know is who killed him. Beth and her gentle, kind husband Frank are happily married, but the relationship relies on the past staying buried. But when Beth's brother-in-law shoots a dog going after their sheep, Beth doesn't realize that the gunshot will alter the course of their lives. For the dog belonged to none other than Gabriel Wolfe, the man Beth loved as a teenager, the man who broke her heart years ago. Gabriel has returned to the village with his young son, a boy who reminds Beth very much of her own son who died in a tragic accident. As Beth is pulled back into Gabriel's life, tensions around the village rise and dangerous secrets and jealousies from the past resurface, this time with deadly consequences. There was so many things going on. Not to mention it was pretty short, which made it really easy to pick up. I'll read you my review. I'm having a hard time putting my thoughts into words, maybe because this is the first book of its genre that I've ever read. I love the past and present timelines and the love triangle trope mixed with a thriller, yes. It kind of had everything you need and more. My only critique is that she could have gone a little deeper. A lot of the scenes felt rushed or passed over and left me wanting more answers. Otherwise, super fun and interesting without being cheesy or immature. So if you're looking for a quick, easy romance slash thriller slash historical vibe, this kind of has like everything you needed more. And last but not least, my last favorite book that I read last year, The Favorites by Layne Fargo. This was so good. Again, it all depends on taste. I am a chronic reality TV watcher. I don't watch scripted shows. I don't really sit down and watch a movie unless it's like a whole event. All I watch is reality TV. This book was drama filled. It had parts of a documentary while following these 2 famous figure skaters who fell in love and all this drama going to the Olympics. Like, I was so invested. All I wanted to do was pick this up. I also listened to the audiobook version of this simultaneously while I was reading. Let me just say, there was one part of this book near the end that actually bumped up its rating by at least 50%. As a Swiftie, I can't. Listening to the audiobook version of this, while also, after all the drama and everything that happened between them, their last skate together, the 2 main characters, the song that they skated to was The Last Time by Taylor Swift. And may I please strongly recommend, after you read chapter 72, pull out your phone and put on The Last Time by Taylor Swift. I was sobbing, crying. Perfect song ever. Anyways, as I said, this was intertwined with a documentary. So if you're also listening to the audiobook, it cuts in and out and it actually feels like you're listening to a documentary podcast or something. And my Goodreads review. This book had me audibly gasping as I was reading. The drama, obsession, romance, betrayal, it was perfection. So easy to read and entertaining. Love, love, love. Also the final Taylor song had me sobbing. I had to stare at the wall and listen to the song just to digest what happened. So if you like drama, suspense, betrayal, secrets, rumors, fame, she's so perfect. Those are my favorite books of 2025. I have a strong feeling that 2026 is going to be a big reading year, and I'm very excited about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've never made a book video before, but in literally every single vlog that I've ever made, I'm reading, so I feel like why not talk about books? So that being said, if you want more book videos, just let me know because I had the time of my life filming this. And if you made it to this point, thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you when I see you.